In this video, you'll learn about the advantages and benefits of serving a website to visitors through a secure connection using HTTPS and SSL certificates. You'll be setting up a secure website using free tools within your SiteGround student hosting account. E-commerce sites aren't the only websites that should be encrypted while communicating with visitors through the browser. These days, there's no reason why every website shouldn't be delivered over the HTTPS secure protocol. By adding the secure sockets layer to your sites will build trust with website visitors, speed up loading, secure any data sent in contact forms, signups, and e-commerce fields, and get a nice advantage with the search engines. Offering this as part of your business is a no-brainer when there's a free solution that's easy to use. Let's check it out. First, let's learn about HTTP versus HTTPS for a few minutes before we start setting up our secure website. Here's an interesting page at http versus https.com. It illustrates what I think is one of the most important benefits to switching to a secure connection for delivering websites, which is it makes your website load so much faster. This interesting web page shows that on its secure page, where it's got the green padlock symbol over here, and you can open up and get some information that the domain that it's using has been verified by a third party. And any data going back and forth between the server and the user was encrypted before being transmitted over the internet. So not only does this build trust with your website visitors, but it also enables a website to use what's called the HTTP2 protocol instead of HTTP 1.1, which was last updated in 1999. All modern browsers allow for HTTP2 to be used, but using the secure HTTPS is a requirement. This little website page shows us how HTTPS and HTTP2 can be so much faster than HTTP itself, which is also unsecure. So if you start out by just clicking HTTP here or opening up the page fresh, your browser will record how long it takes to load all of the data from this web page. And it says it took 8.5 seconds. Now, if I just click HTTPS, we can see that this loads in 1.7 seconds. Now, you may not have noticed, but back in the website that is live on the internet that I've been working on in this course is at gregdavis.com/MailChimp. It's where we built the WooCommerce store and the MailChimp integrations. But at gregdavis.com, I have an HTTPS protocol here. The green padlock shows, and you can see that gregdavis.com as a domain name has been verified by a third party called Let's Encrypt. And if I hit more information, you can see that all the data has been encrypted before being transmitted. So anyone viewing my connection, say if I was in a coffee shop or anything like that, cannot see any of the information traveling back and forth in both directions between the server and the user with their browser open. You can see if I scroll back to the original gregdavis.com WP admin options page here, my settings general shows that I'm using the WordPress address with the HTTPS and the site address as the same, HTTPS, to force the website to open using that secure protocol. Once I have a certificate installed and verified at the server, I can also make one more edit to a hidden htaccess file at the server, adding a few lines so that if anyone goes to any page of my website without typing HTTPS, if I type http://gregdavis.com, when I open that web page, the browser goes directly to the secure version and doesn't allow the insecure version to be opened. Let's Encrypt is a new certificate authority that can verify the domain and the ownership and organization behind your website and allow you to use the HTTPS protocol for free. Though it gets pretty complicated pretty fast. Luckily, a lot of the best website hosts are now implementing a clickable utility inside the cPanel or inside of their server areas that allows you to set up a Let's Encrypt HTTPS certificate quickly and easily. So what other reasons are there for using the secure HTTPS connection for serving your website to visitors? Well, another big reason is that in the last couple of years, Google has made HTTPS a ranking signal, meaning that they're going to look at secure websites and give them higher rankings than websites that aren't delivered securely. Google also rewards the speed of loading of a website too with higher rankings. And if you read some of the articles on the internet, you can find that there are some more obvious reasons to use secure HTTPS. The most obvious one is if your site's an e-commerce site. If you are asking your visitors to put any sensitive or private information into a form and send it to the website server, you need to be using SSL to encrypt that information as it goes across the internet lines. If you use a third-party payment processor, you can get away with sending your visitors to a secure page away from your website, such as PayPal, and then having them put in their payment information there and then being sent back to your non-secure site. But why not? If it's going to be faster, it's going to get better page rankings with Google and other search engines, why not use HTTPS for your entire website, regardless of whether you're taking payments directly or not? Do you have a login form? Well, of course, we as WordPress users all have login forms to log into our WordPress dashboards. And somebody who is hacking and looking at the traffic of your website, say at a coffee shop with a public Wi-Fi connection, would be able to see your login and your password and potentially do something bad with it. And finally, if you have any kind of form on your website, when you ask users to fill out a contact form or a login form if they're becoming members of a website, you'll want to encrypt that information like their usernames, passwords, or any information they might be sending to the website server so that it's secure and can't be read while it's on its way. Now that I've convinced you of the need to make all your websites SSL supported and secure at HTTPS, let's just quickly look at the different types of SSL certificates. There's 3 different types, and the one you often see with the name of the business in green in the address bar is the most expensive and is the extended validation SSL certificate. The certificate authority that's providing the certificate here does a thorough vetting of the organization. And it's the only type of SSL certificate that puts the name of the business in the address bar. The second level is an organization validation, which really looks the same as the third domain validation, but it doesn't have the name up here, but it does have the green padlock. All 3 of these send data over the internet in a secure and encrypted fashion. But the organization validation is a little less expensive, and the certificate authority conducts some vetting of the organization. The most versatile and the least expensive is the domain validation SSL certificate, where the certificate authority checks the right of the applicant to use a specific domain name. There's no company or identity information that is vetted and certified, but it goes all the way down to $0 to get a domain validation SSL certificate. Now, if you go to a number of different certificate authorities, GoDaddy is one. If you look at the certificate types here, the standard one, which is a domain validation, they actually charge almost $70 a year to do that. And the EV, or the extended validation, costs $200 a year. And a lot of the big certificate issuers are still in this old paradigm of charging some amount under $100 per year for a domain verification, and then charging about $200 a year for the extended validation. Rapid SSL is another recommended one from GeoTrust. Their domain is $69. And if you go down and open up, their GeoTrust extended validation, you're looking at $300 a year for that. Flywheel, being a managed WordPress host, wants to get in there and help you manage and set up your security certificates personally. It's a great service, and for building a client website for an e-commerce store that was going to take credit cards or someone that needed an extended validation certificate, I would set up their site at Flywheel, where they would be able to manage my certificate, its renewals, and its setup in the back end for me. There's a couple of security help articles at Flywheel, and they give you a couple steps. They do charge you $10 a month to manage your SSL certificate on your host. But it's worth doing if you're buying an extended validation certificate. So you purchase the SSL add-on from Flywheel for $10 a month per website, and then once you buy your SSL certificate from GoDaddy or another provider, you will get a zip file that you need to send to Flywheel, and then they'll set up your website hosting under HTTPS. They don't offer SSL certificates themselves, and that's why you have to buy one from a third party. And then you can have them force SSL on your site just the same way that we're going to be doing with the free Let's Encrypt certificates at SiteGround here in a minute. Let's Encrypt, in contrast, is an open source, free, and automated certificate authority. It works equally as well. It encrypts data equally as well. It makes your website just as fast and lets it use HTTP 2, and it's absolutely free. It's just now starting to get hosting companies to install utilities that let it easy for users like you and me to get it working. Let's get started with it. Now I've got a new WordPress installation at my SiteGround studentedu.site account, and here's my domain name. It's gregd.sgedu.site. So if you have a site set up already, you can go ahead and encrypt that site, or you can set up a different one if you've expanded your SiteGround to use more than one domain, or on another server that you already own. I'm going to go over to the admin panel, which is my WordPress dashboard login, and you can see that this is not being served under a secure connection. It's just a regular HTTP site. And if I log in, you can see it'll open up the WordPress dashboard, and I'm also going to open up the site itself in another tab so that I can see the results of my work. You can see I'm on a regular HTTP site, non-secure. So follow along with me inside of your WordPress installation and your server space in the cPanel. I'm going to open up the cPanel in my SiteGround account. And the first thing I'm going to do is just go down, and I'm going to go down to the security area right down here and click Let's Encrypt. Go ahead and pause the video wherever you need to and follow along and do the same thing. So I've just got the one domain right here. I'm going to use a testing email address that I have right here, which is my admin email anyway here at my testing SiteGround account. And I'll just click Install. Now, if you follow along with some of the report you'll get here above the progress bar, it's pretty interesting. I'll pause the video now and let that finish. All right, after just a few seconds, I got a success message here. Let's Encrypt certificate installation success. And if you followed those progress bar messages, you could see all those little steps that the server was taking to insert the certificate signing request and to respond and to open the HTTPS connection. All those things are things you would have had to do manually if SiteGround hadn't installed this utility. So now that I hit OK, I can see that I've got an installed certificate for this domain name. It's active, and it has a renewal date. And this is something to note, but doesn't give us any extra work. Let's Encrypt Certificate Authority issues certificates that expire every 3 months. And so on some servers, they require you to go in and renew the certificate manually every 3 months, whereas here at SiteGround, it's got an automatic renewal going on inside of the server, so we won't have to do anything else with this certificate again. Now back at the WordPress dashboard, there's a change we need to make in the settings under General. And just because I installed the Let's Encrypt certificate on my server under this domain, that doesn't mean that every time anyone goes to the website, they'll be automatically redirected to the secure website. In fact, if I refresh the page here, you can see that it easily opens the non-secure version of my website right here. We need to do 2 more quick changes to force all visitors to the website to be redirected to the secure and encrypted version. So I'll go back into that general settings, And I'm just going to add the S right after HTTP and WordPress address and site address. And all I'm doing here is I'm defining the HTTPS protocol inside the database for my WordPress dashboard and my website. So click Save Changes there at the bottom. And when you do that, it will force you to go ahead and log back in again. But that's really all I have to do back at the WordPress dashboard. The next thing I have to do is add a specific little 3 lines of code inside of the cPanel and the file manager. I'm just going to go to the file manager, down a little bit lower under files. I'm going to click file manager, and I want to make sure that this box is checked right here, show hidden files. The file that we're going to edit is the htaccess file, which actually starts with a dot. It's .htaccess, and that file is a hidden file. Dot files are hidden files, but we can use this file manager to not only look at and download and upload files, but to edit them as well inside of the cPanel utility here inside of SiteGround. So I'll click the htaccess, the one that's inside my public_HTML folder. It's right where my WordPress installation files are. And I'm going to go up and click Code Editor. Now I can just hit Edit, and it opens up the content of this htaccess file. What I'm going to be doing is placing a few lines of code above the WordPress rewrite rules that are automatically in there from WordPress. Now I've opened up a text file that I've provided to you in the resources page of the students.wpdevcourse.com website, as well as in the resources page after this chapter inside of the course website. This code gives us 3 rewrite rules that we want to add to our htaccess file, and then edit the website URL to our own. I'm going to hit copy, Control C, and then we go over to the htaccess files, put the cursor there and hit Control V to paste those 3 lines in here. What this does is you can see that it forces the browser when they go to this website to be redirected, if they're not already, to the HTTPS version of the website. And you can find these lines of code if you do a little bit of research on your own on htaccess rules for SSL or for secure websites. So paste that in there and then put your own website URL in here instead of the example yourwebsite.com. Where I'm going to get that is just over at my website address here. I can just grab the text inside of here and hit copy, Control C, and now I'm going to go back into that file editor, and I'm going to select everything inside the slashes there and hit Control V and just make sure that that's right. No extra spaces or anything. That's correct. Okay, then I'm going to hit save in my htaccess file. I can close that window now. When I go back into the WordPress dashboard, now I was already on the secure version of the site here. So if I refresh the page, let's just make sure everything is working. Yep, that loaded great. I go to the website where it's in the non-secure version in my browser, and I just hit refresh. And I've got the green padlock. Excellent. A secure connection. If I open it up, it's verified by Let's Encrypt. I can go to more information, and I could see that the page was encrypted before being transmitted over the internet. In this lesson, you transformed your live site at SiteGround into a super fast loading, secure site that automatically uses the HTTP2 protocol. Now all your client sites can be 10 times faster, get higher page ranking with the search engines, and transmit and receive only encrypted data to and from the server. In this chapter, we've really taken your website management and client offerings to another level. From managing multiple websites to updates and security hardening to the best in site speed and security through SSL, you're ready to bring all this to clients. In the next chapter, we'll put it all together and wrap up the course with lessons about proposals and website care plans for client work, billing and invoicing techniques, and reviewing everything you learned in this course. Let's do it.